I still remember the sound of the rain that day. It wasn't heavy, but soft, like the sky was crying with us. The black umbrellas looked like dark petals scattered across the cemetery, and every face around me felt blurred by tears and disbelief. My sister, Emily, was gone. Just 24, too young. The doctors called it an accident, but nothing about her death felt accidental. Dad stood beside me, silent, stiff, and cold. His eyes didn't meet mine once. He just kept clutching a small wooden box against his chest. At first, I thought it held her favorite necklace or maybe a piece of her writing. Emily used to fill journals with poetry she never showed anyone. But Dad's grip on that box, it wasn't love, it was fear. After the funeral, people came up to hug us, friends, neighbors, relatives I hadn't seen in years. Mom was gone too. She died when I was 12, so it was just me and Dad now. But that day, standing under that gray sky, I realized something terrifying. I didn't know my father at all. He looked like a man trying to bury something deeper than a daughter. We drove home in silence. The windshield wipers made a soft rhythm, swish, 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 almost hypnotic. I tried to speak, but every time I looked at him, I saw his jaw tighten. That wooden box was still on his lap. He hadn't let it go since the cemetery. "Dad?" I finally said. He didn't respond. "Was that Emily's?" He blinked once like he just remembered I was there. Then he whispered, "Some things should stay buried." I didn't understand what that meant, but I remember feeling a cold shiver crawl down my back. That night, I couldn't sleep. The house was filled with memories of Emily. The piano she used to play, the old Polaroids on the wall, the faint smell of her perfume still floating in the hallway. But the thing that kept replaying in my head was that box. At around 2 a.m., I heard a creak. Dad's footsteps. I peeked through my bedroom door. He was wearing his coat. The box was in his hand again. And then he left. Curiosity and fear wrestled inside me. Finally, I grabbed my keys and followed him. The streets were empty, just rain and the occasional flicker of a streetlight. Dad drove down to the old bridge, the one that crossed the Blackwater River. I parked a little far back, my headlights off. From the car, I saw him step out, walk to the edge, and stand there for what felt like forever. Then he whispered something I couldn't hear and threw the box into the river. The splash echoed louder than thunder in my head. I froze. My body wouldn't move. I didn't know if I should confront him or stay hidden. What could be inside that box? Something of Emily's? Something of his? Dad turned, his face wet with rain, or maybe tears. He got back in his car and drove away, never noticing me hiding in the shadows. When I returned home later, everything looked the same, but nothing felt the same. The house was quiet, yet every creak felt alive, whispering secrets. I looked at Emily's old room, her notebooks, her photographs, her half-finished sketch of the river. The same river where Dad had thrown the box. And that's when I noticed something strange. On her desk, tucked beneath a diary, there was a folded paper, one I'd never seen before. It was damp, maybe from tears, maybe from the rain Dad brought in earlier. and on it were 3 words written in Emily's handwriting. Don't trust him. My hands trembled. I sat on the floor, reading those 3 words over and over until they stopped making sense. Who was she warning me about? Dad? Someone else? What could my father possibly be hiding, and why destroy the evidence like that? The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. Whatever was inside that wooden box, Emily didn't want him to have it. And now it's gone, swallowed by the river. Or maybe not. Because later that night, when the rain stopped and the moonlight hit the water just right, I made a decision. I was going to find that box, even if it meant digging through mud and lies and facing the truth that might destroy whatever was left of my family. That was the night everything changed. The night I realized that grief was just a curtain, and behind it something darker was waiting. I didn't know it then, but the box my father threw away would lead me to a secret that tore our lives apart and reveal a side of Emily I never imagined existed.
I went back to the river the next morning. The sun was barely up, and fog hugged the water like a ghost refusing to leave. Every ripple looked like a secret trying to resurface. I parked near the bridge where Dad had stood last night. For a few seconds, I just stared at the water, wondering what the hell I was even doing. Was I losing it? Maybe grief had turned me paranoid. But Emily's note, "Don't trust him," kept echoing in my mind. So I climbed down the muddy slope, the cold seeping into my shoes, and started searching. Hours passed. I found nothing but broken branches, beer cans, and bits of driftwood. Just when I was about to give up, something caught my eye. A faint glint under the surface, tangled in weeds. My heart started pounding. I pulled it free, waterlogged, scratched, but unmistakable. The wooden box. I carried it home wrapped in my jacket like it was something sacred. The lock was rusted, the hinges swollen from the river water. For a while I just sat at my kitchen table, staring at it, afraid of what I might find. Finally, I grabbed a screwdriver and pried it open. Inside were a few things, all ruined by water except for one sealed plastic pouch. Inside that pouch were photos. At first they looked harmless. Emily smiling with some friends, sitting at a cafe, hiking in the woods. But then the faces started repeating. A man I didn't recognize. Tall, clean-cut, wearing the same gray jacket in every photo. And then in the last one, my stomach dropped. It was Dad, standing beside that man, and Emily, between them, smiling, but her eyes weren't happy. They were terrified. I sat there for what felt like hours. Then I noticed something else, a small flash drive taped to the bottom of the box. I plugged it into my laptop. There was only one file, evidence.mp4. My hands shook as I pressed play. The video opened with static, then a shaky shot of a dark room. Emily's voice came through whispering, "If you're watching this, something's gone wrong." Her voice cracked. "Dad's not who you think he is. Please, don't let him destroy this." She turned the camera toward something, a folder on a desk labeled Project Meridian. Then the video glitched. Suddenly, Dad's voice yelled, "What are you doing here?" Emily screamed. The camera fell. The frame went black. The recording ended. I couldn't breathe. The walls of the room seemed to close in around me. Emily didn't die by accident. She was killed. And my father, the man who had raised me, who'd stood silent at her funeral, was somehow involved. I didn't know what Project Meridian was, but I knew one thing. He threw that box into the river to erase her. That night, I confronted him. He was sitting in his study, sipping whiskey like nothing had changed. The moment I entered, he looked up, and his eyes told me everything before I even said a word. "You followed me," he said quietly. "Why, Dad? Why throw away her things?" He sighed, almost sadly. "I was trying to protect you." "Protect me? From what? From knowing my sister was murdered?" He didn't flinch. He just looked old, like the truth itself had been rotting inside him for years. "Emily got involved with people she shouldn't have. She found out things about my work, things that could destroy lives." "Your work?" "I used to consult for Meridian, defense research. They wanted to weaponize data, turn surveillance into behavioral prediction. Emily hacked their system to expose them. They made sure she never spoke again." I felt the floor disappear beneath me. "You helped them," I whispered. He didn't deny it. "I tried to stop it, but when she recorded that video, it was already too late. If the wrong people saw it, they'd come after you too." "So you threw her voice into the river?" His eyes glistened, not from guilt, but from defeat. "I lost one child. I wasn't going to lose another." For a moment, I couldn't speak. The air was thick with everything unsaid. I realized he had loved us, in his own twisted, cowardly way. But love doesn't erase betrayal. I took the flash drive, backed it up, and left the house that night without looking back. I went to the press the next day. At first, they didn't believe me. Then I showed them the footage, the photos, and the documents Emily had hidden in a second pouch, one I hadn't noticed earlier. Within weeks, Project Meridian was all over the news. Government inquiries, corporate arrests, names I'd never heard, people with power I couldn't imagine. And my father, he disappeared. Some say he fled the country. Some say he was silenced by the same people he once worked for. I never saw him again. A year later, I went back to the river. The fog was still there, clinging to the water like a memory that refused to fade. I dropped a white lily into the current. "For you, Emily. You didn't die for nothing." The flower floated away, spinning gently, catching the sunlight. And for the first time, I felt peace. Not because the pain was gone, but because I finally knew the truth. Epilogue. Sometimes I still dream about that night. The rain, the box, my father's trembling hands. And in those dreams, Emily always turns to me and says, "You found it, didn't you?" I always nod, and she smiles, that same sad, knowing smile she had in the photo, before fading into the mist. Because the truth, once found, never really leaves you. It stays, like the echo of a splash in a quiet river.